Hello, and welcome to Every Day is Funny. Thursday, May 16th. I was thinking about a sketch idea, and it's really half-assed at this point, but maybe if I give the beginning idea, y'all out there can help me figure out how to end it. But I was thinking about, there's this canceled celebrity, this fake canceled celebrity, and they have a reporter over to their house for a big interview. And the celebrity had been forced to go away for a while because of the accusations made against them, and they're hoping to finally reemerge and regain public sympathy with this interview. They didn't do anything majorly bad, but just, public perception of them had gone down. And they're hoping this interview saves it. And so they sit down for the interview, and the celebrity points out this bookshelf in the room that they learned how to make in their downtime. And they're very proud of it and talking about using a bad time to make something productive, and they're like, maybe this will be in the piece. Make me seem like a better dude. And then as soon as the interview starts, the bookshelf just completely crashes. It was horribly made. And so they're like, oh, Jesus. And then they try and brush it off as being for another reason that it fell down. And they're going did somebody push that? It can't be pushed like that, or that's going to happen. It's going to crumble like that. And then the interviewer doesn't respond well to the pushing accusation, and the sketch keeps returning to the celebrity's inner thoughts, wondering if they're going to mention the crashing bookshelf they made in the piece, and would it be used in some kind of metaphor about their attempt to build their career back up. But they don't want to ask, because then it's probably going to be included. Anyway, that's it. It's the whole idea. Probably wasn't even worth saying until I built it up into something bigger, but that's kind of what this show's for. Half-assed ideas like that. Maybe I should write it. Anyway, speaking of writing, we do still have the caption contest on everydayisfunny.com. You can scroll down, go to caption contest, click on it. You'll see the image in question, a clown getting a tattoo. I would love to hear anybody's jokes. Send them through. Maybe I'll prolong reading them, because as of right now, I believe we only have 2 submissions. So I might wait a few more days. I know I said Friday, but schedule means nothing this early on in the making of the show, so I know nobody cares. But that's all the housekeeping. Also, before I forget, I have been adding the show to YouTube with a fun little visualizer, so go check that out. And I'm doing that because, again, I'm hoping to start getting video episodes going, and I want to make sure I have all of the episodes on the YouTube channel, so go check that out. All right, let's get to the comics. Now, first today, I wanted to start with a new one. Well, an old one, but a new one to me. And I found this on Comics Kingdom, and I was reading the about description. And I thought it was really beautifully written, and actually showed some care about making people happy in the morning. And so I wanted to read the about section before we get into it. Oh, and I should say the comic is called Zippy the Pinhead. Zippy's brand of absurdity has been coming to the masses since 1970, and there's often nothing better for restoring faith in the nonsense that is this world than taking a moment to read today's Zippy cartoon. Zippy lives in the town of Dingberg, a mystical Shangri-La where the diners never close, and the architecture of roadside America stands side by side with modern art and metaphors made flesh. He's the modern remix of the King's Fool, at once possessed of otherworldly wisdom and innocence. Zippy is also, to his roots, kind. He's curious, and not a little magical, and consistently able to find joy in everything. I just think that's really beautiful. And at the bottom it says, Zippy is a real comic lover's comic. A comic that never tires of exploring the way a few panels of images can come together to tell a story or send a message that simply couldn't exist in another medium. Like, that's someone who is speaking to the ideas of what I'm trying to do with this show. This author, Bill Griffith, is passionate about making people happy and leaning into the absurd. So I think we need to give him a moment of respect and check out his very long-running comic. I would love if after all that hype, it's just like one panel and it says at the bottom, like, Zippy farts. Just doesn't match the description whatsoever. Let's take a look though. Zippy the Pinhead, Thursday, May 16th. Okay, we have a giant chef dog head on the back of a flatbed attached to a white van. At the top it says, Zippy finally wiped out his bank account to buy a real doggy diner dog head. The dog head speaks, saying, I've never been off my pole for so long. Someone in the car says, new home is just ahead. The dog says, who bought me? I hope it isn't some Trump wingnut or right-wing vegetarian cult. Where am I anyway? Then he's getting loaded off the truck. He says, what a relief, it's that pinhead from San Francisco. And I think this is Zippy in a very colorful suit. Says, welcome to rural Connecticut, doggy. I hope you like your new pole. And he puts the dog on just this thin pole in his yard. The dog says, it's kind of quiet out here. Are you sure there's a New England fan base for my baleful gaze? Zippy says, I just enrolled you in the Skull and Bones Society at Yale. Wow. This is great. Bill Griffith is a new comics hero of mine. This perfectly leaned into the absurd. But to introduce a premise where a man just buys a chef dog head yard decoration ornament and that thing speaks and then is put on a pole in a front yard while a man says, I enrolled you in the Skull and Bones Society at Yale, and introduces him to rural Connecticut, is a fascinating premise. And I would think Bill Griffith needs to be high as a kite when he's coming up with stuff like this. I love it. Interesting. Man, between the description and this first comic, Zippy might be my favorite comic we've ever read on the show so far. Wow. You know, like when something's so fascinating that it's hard to even break it down? Like there's not one specific thing here that I find fascinating. The entire premise, the characters, what they say. This is why I do this show. Well, it's not at all why I do this show, but I do it for meditative purposes and to bring a smile to people's faces. But this is what makes it worth it. Comics like this. All right, let's move on to some Dennis the Menace. Because I've done Dennis, I believe, once on this show, and it was pretty solid, and this is a classic comic that I think should be returned to. I want to see how pissed off Dennis's neighbor is today. Which, like, why doesn't the neighbor who hates Dennis move? I know it's kind of admitting defeat to uproot your entire life and the home you've lived in for presumably decades to escape a young child. But he is a menace, and it would make sense if you ever decided, like, hey, I think I'm done here. I think I've given this all the effort I can. And it's not benefiting my life to just stew in anger about the child next door when I could be off living. So that's just a thought, but let's see. Thursday, May 16th, Dennis the Menace. Dennis's mom walks in on him. He has just broken a vase of some kind. He says, "I'm not too sure, but I'll let you know when I come up with a good excuse." That's very good. This is like the best day of comics ever. That's a legit funny line. Just admitting, like, I did wrong here, but I'm gonna try and think of a way to spin this. Okay, I have a long comment here, but I think it fits the vibe. I say, from the point of view of Dennis, I'm lashing out to fit the role assigned to me since being nicknamed the Menace. Perhaps calling a child that doesn't help them stray away from devious behavior, but instead makes them lean into it further. Perhaps the reason I'm a menace is because of all of you. JK, I slipped and hit it over. I think that's pretty good. Okay, we are of course going to end with Rex Morgan, MD. We are still in the bedroom. Conversation between Rex's wife and his daughter. But now the dog, who we all know ate some chocolate and is fine, is now joining them in the room. Rex's wife says, "Hey, look who's here to see you." Sarah says, "Candy, come on up, girl." Rex's wife says she seems to be back to her regular self. Sarah says, "Yeah, but I'm never letting her near chocolate brownies ever again." I don't know why this is the first time I've thought about this, but because, like, you know, this is the millionth time this strip has ended in a very repeated line and the same content over and over again. But what does the author think readers will think when they finish this strip? Does he think they'll leave satisfied in a serious manner? Or does he himself think, wow, I'm really ending this on a very similar spot? I'm very curious. Actually, today I think I am going to reach out to Terry Beatty and try and get him on this show. He would be the ideal first guest. I can't think of a better first guest than Terry Beatty, because I am a massive fan of this comic strip. I'm just fascinated to learn what he thinks about when he's writing it and how he divvies up where each strip ends for the day. All right, we have a great comment from Michael A. Fleming saying, "Do you realize that Sarah began making these brownies 5 weeks ago?" These are the kind of stats we need that really put into perspective how long this storyline has been going on. This has been longer than we've been reading it, over a month of Sarah preparing brownies. In real life, these things resolve themselves and are forgotten far faster than they are in Rex Morgan's universe. I find that baffling. It's the reason I love the comic, but it's also the reason I'm very, very frustrated by it all the time. But kind of like life. Rex Morgan is kind of like life overall. Things become routine, and they're funny, but they're also frustrating that we can't move past certain things as fast as we'd like to. Maybe that's the premise of Rex Morgan, MD. All right, let me leave a comment. Okay, I kind of wrote a comment without thinking, and I don't know how much sense it really makes, but I'm writing, "Mom, can I get a tattoo of Candy on my forehead? I want to show love after putting her through this whole ordeal, and I need it to be a big gesture I can never come back from." I don't know why I wrote that, but send. All right, I think it's time to wind down on this Thursday, May 16th. One more reminder, please submit to our caption contest. You can message me on Instagram. You can send a submission through everydaysfunny.com, or you can email me at everydayisfunnyshow@gmail.com. I hope you have a wonderful Thursday, and I'll see you tomorrow.